This was probably the saddest chapter so far. On one hand, there was beautiful imagery and writing, talking about Rome, and then there's a whole, like, huge paragraph that I just highlighted the whole thing that starts with, "To those who have looked at Rome with the quickening power of a knowledge which breathes a growing soul into all historic shapes and traces out the suppressed transitions which unite all contrasts." And I thought that entire paragraph was just beautifully written. But it was so sad because this opened with Dorothea sobbing, and she cried quite a bit in this. There was one line that said, "Not that this inward amazement of Dorothea's was anything very exceptional. Many souls in their young nudity are tumbled out among incongruities and left to find their feet among them while their elders go about their business." And I feel like she just feels so alone. She was kind of expecting this amazing honeymoon, and it's just kind of falling flat, I think. And then I got kind of frustrated with Mr. Casaubon because she'd ask him a question and then he couldn't just give a yes or no answer. And then it says, "But she was gradually ceasing to expect with her former delightful confidence that she should see any wide opening where she followed him." So I think things are just getting harder for her. And but at the same time, they had their first fight, which, I mean, that's good. All people fight, and, it happens. They're living together for the first time. But also, they're still, like, learning how to communicate, so it's really frustrating, like, and I know things were different back then, but it's like, both of you just be honest and tell the other one how you really feel. Like, just cut out all the extra crap and just be straightforward and honest. So I used quite a few blue tabs in this chapter because it was just sad, but it was so beautifully written. I feel bad for Dorothea. I am so frustrated with Mr. Casaubon. No, Dorothea is not perfect. They had a fight. Totally happens. But the way he's handling this just makes me want to smack him. Like, this opens with her sobbing, and then she feels a little bit better because Mr. Ladislaw is there visiting. And then she takes the first move and is like, "I'm really sorry for speaking so hastily to you this morning. I was wrong." And then he just goes, "I'm glad that you feel that, my dear." And she goes, "Do you forgive me?" And he didn't give her a direct yes or no answer. And then he just goes, "Well, you're excited, and I'm also feeling some unpleasant consequences of too much mental disturbance." It's like, dude. And it says, "Today she had begun to see that she had been under a wild illusion and expecting a response to her feeling for Mr. Casaubon, and she had felt the waking of a presentiment that there might be a sad consequence in his life, which made as great a need on his side as on her own." And it just was really sad. I feel really bad for her. There was really one relatable scene, and it's when she was talking to Will, and she was talking about how she is ignorant about these famous paintings, which I totally get. When I went to Europe, I went with one of my best friends who is an art major. And in Germany, there's like an island of museums, I think is what it's called. And there was one with all this amazing artwork. Couldn't tell you what most of it stood for or like was trying to say, but I could appreciate the beauty of it. And she's saying here that she feels like she's seeing so much at once and not understanding half of it. And it's painful to be told that anything is very fine and not be able to feel that it is fine. And I thought that was super relatable. Um, but yeah, really irritated at Mr. Casaubon, and I really hope someone hurts him right now because he is upsetting me. Well, this was interesting. I think this was a really interesting exchange between Will and Dorothea. Um, you can tell he kind of like fell in love with her as soon as Nauman made a painting of her, and it kind of cracked me up that Mr. Casaubon was like okay with everything once they flattered his looks. It just kind of cracked me up. But I like that Will said, he's a cursed, white-blooded, pedantic coxcomb. That just cracked me up. And he says, I have a hyperbolic tongue. It catches fire as it goes, which I thought was really relatable. And I also really like what he said. To be a poet is to have a soul so quick to discern that no shade of quality escapes it, and so quick to feel that discernment is but a hand playing with finely ordered variety on the chords of emotion, a soul in which knowledge passes instantaneously onto feeling, and feeling flashes back as a new organ of knowledge. I love that line so much. So much. Still hate Mr. I'm beginning to like hate Mr. Casaubon. So at this last one, he just says, I have a duty towards Will. Otherwise, he's not an object of interest to me, and we don't need to discuss him further. And it's like, oh my god. Like, Dorothea finally found a friend, and you made her feel like crap. I hate him. But I thought it was really interesting that Will says that Dorothea's belief system is kind of like mysticism, which was full circle to Saint Teresa from the Prelude, which made me so excited to make that connection. I thought that was interesting. And I like that Will is more of a romantic, or is into like romanticism. And you can really see that in this chapter. He really values beauty and art and nature, and falls in love with Dorothea once she becomes a piece of art, so to speak. So I'm really interested to see where this goes, or if this is going to turn into some kind of love triangle or what. This is the end of book 2, and book 3 is called Waiting for Death, so I have a feeling it's going to be really sad. Okay, I'm not even all the way through this chapter. I don't know how many pages I have left. Oh, like 5. But it's so funny that the narrator is like, Fred was not a gambler, but this entire chapter so far has been Fred gambling and then getting his debts paid by people and then gambling and getting back in the hole again. And it's a little tiring to read about. Okay, hopefully you can hear this, but I do not like Fred. And I don't like how he's talking to Mary about how he's going to borrow money. And I feel like Mary is a very sensible person. And I'm liking her more. But Fred, I'm like, I don't trust you.